Hi, welcome to my channel, Book and Hearth. I'm Anna Uden. I'm a fiction author. My debut novel, The Curse in Their Veins, came out last year, and I particularly write horror and psychological thrillers. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different from my usual content on this channel. Usually I like to make things cozy, talk about books, but I came across a TikToker who decided to come for horror fans' throats for literally no reason. So as a horror author and obviously lover myself, I had a lot of thoughts, and today that's what we're going to react to. So this person made a bunch of different videos on this. We're gonna go in chronological order, starting with the initial video and then all her responses afterwards.
I have to break my silence. There is something fundamentally wrong with you if you love horror movies. I've really been holding my tongue on this for a long time. Why do you want to be...
I love how this is being framed as like, oh my god, I've been holding my tongue on this for so long. I need to get this off my chest, as if this is like some massive, insightful confession that people have just been begging for. Please tell me what's fundamentally wrong with me.
Be scared all the time. Why do you like gore? Why do you want to see blood and guts on screen when you could watch something nice? And you don't even have to feel nice when you watch stuff. You can you can watch something that's heart-wrenching or sad, but just like blood and guts. And like I see it on
The most glaring problem that I see with this is really the conflation between gore and horror. These are two different things. Horror is kind of like an umbrella genre, and gore is kind of a subgenre that often is a part of horror, but it's also very much at an extreme of horror. Conflating gore with the entire genre of horror is kind of like conflating hardcore corn, obviously I can't say the exact word on YouTube, with the romance genre. You're taking something that exists within a larger umbrella and going to the very extreme of it. And the extremes, listen, the extremes are certainly known to be more dangerous and more harmful and more questionable. The extremes of anything are typically not a good idea. But when you take the extreme of something, a very small percentage of something, and you assume that that's representative of the entire genre that you're talking about, first of all, you're showing that you have no idea what you're talking about, but secondly, you're also taking a very bigoted approach. That is literally the definition of bigotry. It's judging an entire group of people based on a very small minority within that group. Now look, is there an argument to be made that gore is harmful? Yeah, I think actually there is an argument to be made for that. Many of you who watch this channel know that I'm also a doctor of clinical psychology, and we certainly have a body of research to suggest that violence can escalate when we consume that type of content. It can become addictive, and it can certainly become dangerous to the people around us as well as ourselves. So if this TikToker were instead to say, I have a bone to pick with violence in media, whether it be books or movies or whatever, I think that people would have taken it a lot better than they did. But the way she approached it shows that she clearly is very ignorant about the horror genre, and she's coming off very aggressively about something that she's clearly not informed on, and people don't typically like that. Horror is about so much more than gore. You can have psychological horror, where the character is starting to doubt their sense of reality or their identity, or is being gaslighted. You can have body horror, which reflects everybody's kind of fears and disgusts about some of our bodily processes that we go through. For example, I just finished watching last year's American Horror Story season, which was all about pregnancy and kind of some of the horrors that can come from it. It's really important for people to process through that in art forms because we all go through it. We all experience body horrors in our day-to-day life, and we want an avenue in which to process through those things. You have, of course, paranormal horror, which is often about grief. You have literary horror, about overarching themes about what it means to be human, using horror elements as kind of symbols for much, much deeper things. You can have speculative horror. That's kind of like a commentary on society and technology and all of that. Also, I can't believe I forgot to mention my very favorite kind of horror, Gothic horror, the one that I write the most from, which typically contains an old, decrepit setting like a castle or a tower, heavily focuses on the relationship between the past and the present and the way that the past comes back to haunt the present, as well as supernatural elements. There are so many different types of horror. To simply say gore equals horror is just, again, so uninformed. And I noticed she said, why can't you watch a type of movie that makes you feel something else? You know, like, it doesn't even have to be happiness. Why can't you watch a movie that makes you feel sad, for instance? This is for me as a doctor of clinical psychology, where my spidey sense starts to go, okay, there's some sort of avoidance here around feeling fear. Why is it that sad emotions are okay to feel, but fear is not okay to feel? And by the way, if you're not sure why I keep talking about fear in this context, it's because typically thrillers focus on suspense and also a little bit of thrill and excitement and fear and anxiety. Horror also tends to focus on fear and anxiety, as well as sometimes disgust. All of these are important emotions for us to process through. All of these are emotions that we feel in day-to-day life. And art is supposed to be a safe space for us to process through feelings like those. Obviously, as a horror and thriller writer myself, I sometimes get questions from people in my personal life being like, well, Anna, like, doesn't it negatively affect you? Don't you think it's like making you anxious or things like that? Absolutely not. I think part of what I love about these genres so much is that it helps me work through pre-existing anxiety issues that I have. Because the worst thing about any sort of emotion, but particularly with anxiety, is the avoidance of that emotion. The second you start pushing certain emotions away or thinking that it's not okay to feel them, that is when they bounce back even harder and they come to haunt you. So for example, the novel that I'm working on right now, I started writing it in part because I was preparing for something in my life and I had some anxieties about it. Now that something in my life that I was preparing for has arrived, and I have to work through this really difficult topic. I don't want to get more personal than that right now. I'm just going to have to keep it vague. But the point I'm trying to make is that, yeah, it's really hard to write this gothic horror novel that is processing through something that hits home really closely for me and that kind of scares me. But it is an act of self-development for me to do that work, to push through my initial resistance and the initial urge to avoid how I feel about those things, and to instead work through them, to alchemize them into a work of art that kind of feels like, okay, now I've processed through it. The book is done. I've edited through it a million times. And now I kind of feel like I'm kind of done with this topic. This happened with my previous novel too. It's happened with every novel that I've written. It usually was born of something that I wanted to process about my own life. And the second that the book was done, I didn't feel like I needed to process through that issue anymore. It was kind of a one and done thing. It was a thing of the past. And then I was moving on to something else, the next thing that I needed to work on psychologically. And I'm very, very skeptical of people who think it's not okay to feel certain emotions or try to tell other people that it's not okay to feel certain emotions or to put themselves in situations where they feel those emotions, because that to me is a dead giveaway of lack of emotional depth and self-awareness. If you cannot own all of your emotional experiences, that to me is very emotionally immature, not strong enough to look at their demons yet. And I'm not saying this is an insult. You know, if you don't like horror, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But if you have an aversion to other people watching horror, it's probably because you have an aversion to your own painful emotions. Let's keep watching.
Dating apps all the time. Oh, I need to watch horror movies with somebody during spooky season. Shut up! Ew! Your idea of romance, you want me to come over to your house, me a woman, you a man, famously violent murderers as a genre. You want me to come to you, a strange man's house, and watch violence porn?
When people say, let's watch horror and cuddle together, I think usually what they're talking about is more like Haunting of Hill House, Hocus Pocus. I don't think they're usually talking about slashers, you know, Friday the 13th, right? If they are, listen, yeah, that might be a red flag. I too would also not want to go to somebody's house if they like to watch super bloody movies and they're really eager to share that. I think that's valid. But again, that's not what horror is. That's a tiny, tiny subset of the genre. And also, it kind of seems like she's taking this angle of like, oh, this is a feminist issue. This is a women's safety issue. And again, it comes off so ignorant because horror has been used by so many brilliant movie creators and authors as a way to subvert power dynamics, as a way to discuss marginalization, whether it be of women, of people of color, like with the movie Get Out, for instance, as a way to bring more attention to violence against women. This is not a feminist issue, that horror somehow is renowned as being terrible for women. That is very much not the case. And again, if somebody has "I want to watch horror" in their Tinder bio or whatever, it's absolutely your prerogative to say, "I don't want to be with this person. I don't feel safe with them." That is your right. But it is intellectually dishonest to equate the entire horror genre as violence corn.
And then kiss? It's not gonna work for me. And it's become so mainstream. People are like, "I love horror movies." Why? Not even suspense or thriller. Horror. I cannot get behind this. I will not get behind it. Horror is such a quick swipe left for me. I'm like, near. Why do you like that? That's fucking weird.
Okay, so to answer your question, you asked a question, why do you like that? Allow me to explain. I actually made a video about this topic last year for Halloween on my psychology channel. But to summarize a few of the key points, one of the wonderful things about a genre like horror is that it allows people a safe setting in which to practice feeling certain emotions. So like I was saying, for instance, I sometimes struggle with anxiety. And what I love about horror is that when I feel anxious during horror, I'm hyper aware of the fact that I am safe. I'm not in the movie. I'm not one of the characters. I'm at home sitting on my couch, cuddled up with my cats and my husband. And there's almost like this contrast between the lack of safety in the plot and the safety that I feel watching it, that allows me to feel more comfortable with the feeling of anxiety, that allows me to practice, again, non-avoidance of these difficult emotions, and ultimately come to a place where I am a less anxious person. Also, the horror genre is kind of like dreaming, or like nightmares more specifically, because you're practicing running through these scenarios and thinking how you would survive them. So let's say it is something like a slasher movie. Who amongst us hasn't had tons of nightmares being chased by murderers? It's there for an evolutionary reason, because we want to feel prepared if this actually happens in real life. We want to have practiced those scenarios in our imagination. It's the exact same thing with horror. We like to think, "Oh my God, why would they do that? That's so stupid. Why are they running right towards the wolf's mouth?" Because in the back of our minds, we're thinking, "I would never do that. Here's how I would keep myself safe if this situation ever arose." Also, fear and excitement are physiologically identical. Your body is physiologically aroused in the exact same way. The only thing that differentiates them is the valence that you give to them, whether it feels pleasant or unpleasant, and like the cognitive appraisal of what it is. It's our thoughts that discern whether something is excitement or fear. And so it might feel like fear when you're watching a scary movie, but it's not really pure fear. It's mixed with that excitement. And who amongst us doesn't like excitement? But let's be honest, this TikToker is not interested in hearing our reasons. She thought this was going to be a popular, unpopular opinion, and that she would feel validated about the fact that people are agreeing with her ignorant belief. I mean, look, her very caption is, "This is a core belief, I will not be swayed." That's stubbornness there. That is not the attitude of somebody who's interested in hearing other people's perspectives or genuinely hearing out their reasons. She asks a question, and then when people are trying to give her genuine answers in the comments, being truly vulnerable about their mental health struggles, about their trauma. As you'll see from her follow-up video, Haha McKenna does not have some wonderful beliefs about people with emotional struggles. Okay, I actually can't find the next video that I had saved, her first follow-up on this. It kind of looks like she deleted it. I can't find it in my bookmarks. I can't find it on her page. If I'm missing something, let me know. But luckily, I did manage to jot down some notes before she took it down, and I can completely understand why she took it down. It was a response to somebody's comment on her initial video. Somebody had said, like, "I have trauma. That's why I enjoy horror." And her response was something along the lines of, "I love how horrors are saying there's nothing wrong with me for liking horror. It's just that there's something wrong with me for liking horror." And she says, like, "That's exactly my point." McKenna, being severely traumatized, like that person was saying, actually doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. You kind of gave yourself away and your biases and your prejudices against people with mental illness and trauma when you said that one. So again, I can totally see why you wanted to delete it, but it's actually not going to disappear from the internet. And also, it's again very dishonest to single out one person who said, I like horror because I'm traumatized, knowing damn well that the majority of comments were not people with severe mental illness or severe trauma saying this is why I like horror. It is again her trying to confirm her beliefs that the people who watch horror, there's something fundamentally wrong with them, which is again confirmation bias, setting out with your mind already made up and then looking for evidence to confirm it.
Something fundamentally wrong with you if you love horror movies. I fear my take may not have been strong enough. Horror fans are proving themselves even more insufferable than previously thought in my comments. They are ratioing me to hell because they're angry that I don't like what they like. The media literacy is at an all-time low. Like, horror fans are so, like, the TikTok generation, clearly. Everyone's like, how would you like it if I said that I didn't like the art behind you? I would say, okay, well, it's in my house. So it actually doesn't matter at all. They're so pressed. Insufferable people, all of you. Why do you care? I'm talking shit. I'm literally talking shit. And I've got a lot of views and engagement about it. And so I thank you for that. And I hope you have fun watching your violence porn. And I hope that you enjoy your trauma or whatever.
I hope you enjoy your trauma or whatever. Are we seriously in the year 2024 talking about trauma and mental struggles in this way? McKenna, we're not angry that you don't like the same thing that we like. If you had come on here and said, I don't like horror, can you guys please explain to me why you guys do? No one would have had a problem with that. Could it be the fact that you told an entire group of people that there is something fundamentally wrong with them because of a hobby that they have? Or that you doubled down on your ignorant take when people tried to explain their perspectives to you? Also, why is it always the people complaining about media literacy that have no media literacy? The fact that you got hate on a video that was coming off very aggressive and very insensitive and ignorant is not the result of people having low media literacy. In fact, I would argue it is low media literacy to not understand why a video like that would come off the way that it did. And you know, guys, it's very rare that I get this heated over a TikTok reaction. I usually try to keep myself completely neutral and composed. But this TikToker, she did truly get under my skin, and it has nothing to do with her not liking the horror genre. I think it honestly has more to do with this attitude that she takes. There's something fundamentally wrong with you as a person, and if you try to explain yourself to me, I'm not listening. You know, it's like talking to a brick wall, because I've encountered people like this before in my life. And I have relational scars from people who behave this way. And so yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna keep it completely neutral and composed in this video because shit like this does genuinely piss me off. And McKenna, you could acknowledge that why do other people care about the art that you have in your house? Why do you care about the movies and books that people have in their house? Do you not see how the math is not adding up? The cognitive dissonance is pretty unbelievable there. And as for her thanking us for the views and engagement, you know, yeah, I gotta say, I did wonder, and I always wonder with these kinds of videos, if it's rage baiting. If people are just vying for any kind of attention because they want to make a quick buck off TikTok. And if that's the case, congrats girl, get that bag, but you know, it's not gonna last very long because your videos aren't very funny and they don't come off the way that you think they do.
This is probably the last video I'll make on this because y'all are really having a problem with me, and that's okay. I do want to let you know that I have spent the last 24 hours, 48 hours, fielding like actual death threats and insults that are just absolutely insane because I said that there's something wrong with you if you like horror. And listen, you've tried to educate me in the comments. And by educate, I mean you've called me fat, ugly, boring, unfunny, homophobic, racist, unsafe for autistic people, and a lot of other unfounded things. The fat one is founded. But I hope that the people who are in the comments saying, actually, horror fans are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, I would like you to go back through my videos and read the comments. You really have sought me out on other platforms. And you know what? What I hope is that you seek me out in the street. You already called me Andre the Giant, And you're right. Would you like to have this conversation in person? Would you? I didn't think so. I think what you should do is go back to watching your weird fucking slasher films. And listen, if my video offended you and the shoe fits, look inward. But if you were one of the people who saw the video and was like, yeah, I do have a lot of trauma, it is kind of odd that I find soothing in horror movies. That was the original intention. You misread it, and that's okay. You know, that's one of the risks we run when we put videos on the internet. So I'm really not pressed, but you guys are. And yeah, I just really encourage you to think about how you treat other people on the internet. I have been a fat woman on the internet for over a decade, far over a decade. So I'm really thick-skinned. A lot of people have said some really heinous shit to me on the internet. And I slept really soundly last night. Like, you guys aren't doing it for me. But I do hope you treat other people with a little bit more kindness. And also, I do want you to know that you can close the app. When you see something you don't like, you don't even actually have to close the app. You can get off of my video or off of my profile. You really, for real, don't have to engage. And a lot of you have spent hours in the comments arguing and calling me really mean names, and there just really isn't a reason for that. I was doing a haha funny, and you didn't like it, and that's gonna be okay. I hope that you find some peace. And ultimately, I love you dearly.
Oh, okay. I cannot remember the last time I've seen a video that was this dripping with condescension and arrogance. Look, let's get something out of the way right off the bat. Online hate, death threats, coming for somebody's appearance, being unnecessarily mean to people is never okay. And this is something I've spoken about fucking constantly on my channels. And I've been there. You know, I've received a ton of those comments myself. I have had a channel for 5.5 years at this point. I've heard it all, I've seen it all. But let's not act like a minority of people who are truly hating and engaging in immoral behavior are again representative of the entire genre of horror. McKenna, this is the exact issue that put you in this situation, generalizing a tiny subset of people as representative of the entire umbrella of a genre. This has nothing to do with horror fans. I get fucking weird comments anything I post. The other day I posted a video on my psychology channel where I was wearing a turtleneck sweater and I got a comment that said, "This is softcore corn." Okay, this has nothing to do with the specific audience that you're engaging with. This is just about the internet. People are crazy on the internet. They say really heinous things. They think they can get away with it. And I'm sorry that you experienced that. No one should send you death threats. No one should call you names or come for your appearance. But when I look through your comments, those are not the overwhelming majority of what I see. I see here, I was mean first and then people were mean back to me and I don't like it. Well, when you rage bait, you get rage. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'll paraphrase it as it applies here. You aren't being bullied, you picked a fight and then lost. Would you like to have this conversation in person? Yes, actually. Even nice people can be mean when they're told something is fundamentally wrong with them for enjoying a movie genre. The most liked comments under your video are not people telling you heinous things. The most liked comments are pointing out your own hypocrisy. Also, baiting people to literal violence, to fighting you because of this? And this actually gives me a really strong sense of where this is coming from, because the entire thesis of the original video was if you like horror, there's something aggressive and violent about you. And that to me seems honestly like just a projection of aggression. You played a stupid game and you won a stupid prize. No one's trying to fight you, okay? It's ironic to tell people, did you know you can just log off? When you could have literally done that. You didn't have to go on there and tell an entire group of people, millions of people, that there's something fundamentally wrong with them because of the hobbies that they take part in. You actually didn't need to do that. You could have just gone about your day, minded your own business, done something that gives you joy, but you had a bad take. And you had a bad reaction to it. And I'm glad you slept really soundly last night. Nothing screams I'm unbothered like making 5 follow-up videos about a topic. So if I can end with a little bit of my own advice, the next time you feel this impulse to say something hateful about an entire group of people, maybe just press pause for a moment and educate yourself first. because that could avoid a lot of these issues. If you realize your biases and work through them and become a less ignorant person, you're probably going to find that people don't have these issues with you. Also, when people are trying to educate you and trying to explain the answer to your question, maybe listen to them. Maybe, I don't know, like consider the chance, that just a tiny, tiny little chance that they could be right and you could be wrong. I know, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. And you notice, McKenna, I didn't need to threaten you. I didn't need to comment on your appearance. I didn't need to talk about the artwork behind you in order to interact with your videos. All I really did in this video is just pointed out the logical inconsistencies in your argument. So if that makes me a hater, then I guess I'm a hater. But you know what, babe? Like I said before, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.